Hi, I'm Chris Triolo, Vice President of Professional Services for HP's Enterprise Security Products Group. And joining me today is Jesse Emerson, our Director of Security Intelligence and Operations Consulting Group. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you, Chris. Happy to be here.
So the first question I have for you, of course, is, Jesse, what is the State of Security Operations Report?
Great question, Chris. So here at HP, we've had about 7 years of a security intelligence and operation consulting focused practice. So in this practice, we've done what we call security operations maturity assessments for the past 7 or 8 years. And we've amassed this great data set from the assessments that we've performed, looking at the people, process, technology, and business aspects of how these operations centers and cyber defense teams are working. And in these maturity assessments that we've performed, there's all of these great nuggets of information and trends that we've identified. Now, we recognized last year that we performed like 70 different customers' assessments. So we had a big data set to look at that was statistically relevant to say that we can identify real trends out of the data.
Are these customers from all over the world?
They are. This year in our report, we have results from 18 different countries. Okay. And now we're up to 93 different companies or organizations that we've assessed and over 120 assessments performed. So again, very big data set. Now, because our customers, our colleagues in the security industry are both curious and also because security operations centers are often very private for companies, it's sort of a unique and a privilege to be able to look under the covers of these security operations centers. So we figured if we could protect the anonymity of our clients at the same time that we share all of this meaningful and interesting information from our data, that it could be a really good report. So we published our first report in 2014 based off of the previous year's assessments, and just a few weeks ago we published our second annual State of Security Operations report.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what new trends have we seen in the 2015 report from last year?
Yeah, there have been some interesting things that have happened in the industry. You've seen headlines based off of really huge breaches across the retail sector, for instance, where multiple companies are being breached by the same crime syndicates, things where it's actually the same methods, the same adversary, but touching multiple companies. And so one of the trends that we've seen resulting from that is that there's an increased importance and willingness to share information from one company to another about how they're doing cyber defense or security operations. So these little consortiums or networks between companies' security teams are forming, and they're talking more openly than they ever have before about what they're doing in their security programs, which I think is going to be a huge benefit. It also has raised the importance of things like threat intelligence feeds, and how do you integrate that threat intelligence back into your SIM infrastructure and your security operations. Another trend that we've seen a lot is a trend towards creating what the industry is calling hunt teams. And really formalizing what is that idea or the definition of a hunt team over the past year. So the difference here between traditional security operations and hunting is that in the traditional SOC, or the SOC that we've been working with largely in a lot of the companies that we see out there, is that they are reactive in nature. Mm-hmm. It's alert comes in, respond to that alert, follow your escalation processes, learn about it. But the indicator, the trigger for your activity is something that shows up as an alert, a correlation rule and an attack, some signature was met. Now with hunting, you're taking a different approach. You're saying, I'm assuming that I'm already compromised. And the statistics would tell us that most of our companies, most of ourselves really are already compromised. Yeah. So I think it was one of the industry reports said it's an average of 229 days from breach to discovery for most companies and most breaches that this company had investigated. And then on top of that, most of the time when they did discover that they were breached, they were being told by a third party. So they're not even finding it themselves, which is a big issue, right? So by forming these hunt teams, you're actually dedicating cycles and people to looking for the adversary that's already inside. You're analyzing data in different ways, bigger sets of data, usually with different sorts of analytical techniques using big data analysis tools or data analytics, business intelligence types of tools to look at how do you find that little nuanced pattern or the thing that you didn't know was there in your environment, but now you have to investigate and understand it. And so these hunt teams are certainly gaining traction and a really big theme that we've seen in the last year.
Okay. As part of the report, we assess an organization's SOC maturity, and they're doing some things right and maybe some things wrong. What's some of the things that they're doing right?
You know, we've been doing this for a while, and one of the things that we're getting better at, or the industry is getting better at, is understanding the problem. Right. So the executives are getting more sophisticated in how they talk about and think about security. Board level is getting involved and really starting to demand not just checking the box of security, but actually meeting the intent of these security detective and containment and remediation types of controls. So, you know, whereas we had a lot of investment and money going into security purchases and products and sometimes operations in the past, a lot of what we were seeing was almost superficial in how effective it was in the environment because it wasn't fully operationalized. It wasn't understood what the business requirements were going in. And you know, because of that, they weren't, you know, really achieving much in terms of true security. Right. So, but the demands now from the board, from the executives, from the stockholders, is to do real security, and I think that we're getting better at that. Overall, there's still a ton of work to do and a long ways to go. And if you look at our results within the report, it shows that, you know, a large percentage of the customers that we evaluate are actually only performing their security operations at what we would call an ad hoc level. Mm-hmm. So they're just figuring it out when they're faced with it. You know, it's like you've got a breach or you have malware or, you know, you have privacy concerns, and they just have some smart guys that are jumping in and figuring it out maybe differently each time. And that's not what we would call a mature or sustainable kind of an operation. That's part of what we're doing wrong. But what, you know, part of what we're doing right, though, is demanding more rigor around how do you measure effectiveness and efficiency in these operations. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big part.
Okay, great. Besides the report itself, which you can read, it's got a lot of keen insights and helps you understand the problem overall. How else can HP help its customers?
Well, there's a lot of ways. You know, HP as a company has a broad portfolio of products and services that we can bring to bear to help customers solve these problems. And you know, one of the things that I like about our company is when we look at the security problems that our customers are facing, we're trying to help out both the industry and the individuals, and we're looking at it not as a how do I sell a point solution to, you know, maybe protect an endpoint, for instance, mm-hmm. but rather how do I connect pieces of the security infrastructure investment that our companies are making to have a true solution that helps to solve their problems and protect their business in meaningful ways. So it's everything from starting with something like this assessment, where we can look at what are your business requirements, what are the real things that are important to you and your business and important to protect, and then building a plan and a program based off of that assessment to help them, you know, execute forward. And then also put in milestones and measures of what does success mean mm-hmm. at each stage along that journey, right? And you know, so it's this assessing and designing phase of projects that we can do from consulting and services. We have great technologies that we can plug in to provide some of the most impactful pieces of the security program. Right. So security intelligence systems and, you know, SIM specifically is one of the biggest investments that can tie together your security program in meaningful ways that have a real impact on the cost of a breach and the efficiency of your day-to-day operations. So that's important. And then we also have great encryption capabilities, and that's kind of an expanding area in our portfolio that is the second most effective way to contain and protect information in these companies. So, you know, tying those things together along with our other products with real useful expert solutions, I think is part of the answer we have here from HP.
All right. Well, Jesse, thank you for joining me today for this discussion. If you'd like to read the full State of Security Operations report, please visit the HP website where you can download it.